In this section of the 1.2 homework, we're going to use properties of similar triangles to find the value of x and then find the values of the sides using that x. So these triangles are not oriented the same way, so I need to look at the relationship of the sides based on their shape and size. So the easiest thing to identify is that right angle, and across from that is the hypotenuse. So I know the G and the C are corresponding sides. Keeping the first triangle on the top and the second triangle on the bottom, make sure that I'm consistent with that for the proportions. And then the next one I want to do is I could do A or B, either leg, but A looks like the shorter leg, so I'll use the shorter leg. A corresponds to the shorter leg F. So there's A is to F. And then that longer leg B corresponds to the longer leg E. All right, so I got my proportion set up for these two triangles, and we are going to do number 61 here. So that has A, B, E, and F, which is this part of the proportion, so we don't really need the C over G for number 61, but we will use it for those other problems. So for number 61, let's plug in what we have here. So I have a proportion. I'm going to set that up. And our A is the 4x, and we have a B, which is 14, and we have E, x plus 1, and we have F, which is 12. So I need to solve for x, and then I can plug x back into those four formulas to find A, B, E, and F. So to solve for x, I need to cross multiply. So looking at these fractions, can I reduce them? I can, actually, a little bit. In this first fraction, I have 4x over 12. I can take a factor of 2 out of both, a factor of 4 out of both of those, which leaves me with 1x on the top and 3 on the bottom. So that reduces my fraction a little and gives me x over 3 is 14 over x plus 1. So that's as reduced as I can get. The other thing I need to be careful of here is that this is a grouping symbol. So I can put parentheses around the x plus 1 to make sure I don't forget that that is a group. And when I cross multiply, I need to keep it as a group and distribute. So I'm going to use some color. Let's do this cross multiplication. So that's x times the group of x plus 1. Equals, and let's use purple, 3 times 14. I don't know that one off the top of my head, so I'm going to go off to the side a little and do some multiplication, 42. And on the left, I'm going to distribute that x. So I get x times x gives me x squared, and then x times 1 gives me x. So now I have a equation with a quadratic in it. To solve an equation with a quadratic, I need to set it equal to 0. I'm going to get a blue pen and say, so to set that equal to 0, I will subtract 42 from both sides. Now I have a quadratic, and now to factor this is in the form a x squared plus bx plus c. I need to find the two numbers that will multiply to negative 42 and add to 1. That's the c and the b. So factors of 42 that have a difference, since 42 is a negative, I want a difference of 1. So factors of 42. Let's see, there's 1 and 42, or 2 or 21, 3 and 1, 14, 7 and 6. There we go. 7 and 6 have a difference of 1, and they have a product of 42. I want one of those to be negative, so I get a negative 42, and I want the 6 to be negative, so when I add them together, I get a positive 1. So then this factors to x minus 6 and x plus 7. And I can double check that I did that right. If I were to FOIL this out, I would get x squared at the beginning. I would get a negative 6x and a positive 7x in the middle, which gives me that 1x. And when I do the last, I would get a negative 6 times a positive 7, which gives me a negative 42. So just foiling and making sure I would get that back verifies that I factored that correctly. The next step is to identify the zero product property. So these two factors, when I multiply them together, I get 0, which means either x minus 6 equals 0 or x plus 7 equals 0, because anytime two numbers multiplied together equals 0, one of them must be 0. If x minus 6 equals 0, that would tell me that x equals 6. If x plus 7 equals 0, then that would mean x equals negative 7. But looking back over here, like for example, a is 4x, so x cannot be a negative number because these values are going to be sides. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that number out and just use this for our solution for x. So I'm going to highlight that. And then I'm not quite done. I still have to go back and solve for a, b, f, and e using that x equals 6. Okay, so my formulas for a is 4x, so that's 4 times 6, which gives me 24. And then b was just 14. They actually gave that one to us. B was 14. So b is 14, that one's done. E was in orange. That's x plus 1. And for x we got 6, so that's 6 plus 1, which is 7. And b, whoops, we already did b. F. F actually they gave us, which was f is 12. So we are now done. I'm going to highlight my final answers here. A is 24, B is 14, E is 7, and F is 12.